And welcome to Conservative Talk. And this show is all mine. We're going to be talking about a rule change that I am trying to get implemented at the Floyd County GOP level. But I'm really hoping that this could be done at the state party level. So Jamie's putting his official county GOP chairman hat on, and I'm going to be making my pitch.
Let's talk.
And welcome to Conservative Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we like to remind Jamie's subjects to make sure you are hitting the like button and the share button on any of the content that you see that we produce and put out on any of the platforms we are on, as well as Jamie Law explicitly dictates, you must hit subscribe as well, because if you do not, you will be shamed in the public streets. As per Jamie Law, you also are required to go to conservativestalk.org and hit that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner, because in Jamie's world, you must pay your taxes, and that is through sponsorships. So, Jamie, with that in mind, how about giving us your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines. Don't forget it. Got to get liberal media out of here, and it's only a matter of time. Boycotting hometown headlines is where it begins.
Love it. So with that in mind, we do like to take a quick moment to thank our affiliates, and our first one being Net News Network. So you can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. It is a local it's a compilation of local grassroots newscasters that really have a very good, thorough understanding of what's going on in their local neighborhoods and their local areas, and it's the best source of any sort of information that you can really get from firsthand experience. So make sure you are looking for Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. We also want to say a quick thank you to Veterans for America First, the premier America First policy organization. And they really push a lot of their agenda through their media arm, and that being Vet Voice. So make sure you are looking for Vet Voice on every major social media platform. So, Jamie, you got your hat on.
Officially, yeah.
How about let's talk about some real accountability?
So, for those of you who don't know, there's been a lot of discussion, and if you had been in state convention or involved with the GOP, I don't know where you've been for the last couple months, but there was a rule proposed for an accountability that really was leaned more towards elected officials and who's going to be on the ballot, who wasn't, that kind of thing. But something that Justin has come up with is more along the lines of a membership accountability, and making sure that we as members and GOP members as a whole hold ourselves accountable to the party. What we see sometimes is that individuals who do not get involved until their name is kind of just listed out as being a delegate to whatever function or whatever convention just kind of come out of nowhere, and then they have large say-so in what goes on in the structure of the party. So we felt that the best thing to do right now would be kind of to discuss some of what Justin has been putting together, what Justin's been working on. And, we've had some discussion about this privately, but we felt that, this is something that we probably need to take to the public and see what the public thinks.
Yeah, we would love any comment, any sort of input out there that you may have on this rule. So I'll actually list a Google document link in the description, so you can go in and view this proposed rule yourself. First off, I do want to say I say we, but I know the world is full of assholes, so there's really no need for anybody to prove that I'm right in that. So we're only really looking for any sort of constructive criticism, input that can be valued and taken in and potentially used to change this. Just because you think you're funny, 99.999% of the time, you're really not. So if you're not looking for something that's actually going to be helpful, if you're not actually going to be putting something in that's helpful, please just take a hint and just realize you're really wasting your time and your effort with that.
Yeah, the goal.
I'll be honest with you.
The goal of this is to strengthen the party, and I think that one thing that's really come out of this state convention, we all kind of fought like cats and dogs, but one thing that really has come out of this is that we have now opened up communications. Whether you're a part of the GRA or the grand old party, as it has always been, or the coalition that's coming around,
or you just don't have any sort of affiliation and you're just a member of the party, and you're just
absolutely,
and you're just working to advance the Republican core principles and beliefs.
Yeah, this is just another way for us to try to get out there and get some feedback that we can kind of take back to some of the people that we know and see what you all think. So we'll do it that way, and we'll go ahead and get started.
So I want to give a little background behind this. I've been very participatory in the not just the party process, but in politics in general for nearly a good decade now. And when I say very participatory, I mean I've been just about every level that you can possibly be at within politics, state, national, local, next door neighbors, all of it. So when I say that to say, I know a lot of the people, I would say I would know just about everyone that is involved in my local area that's involved with politics. If they come out to the party meetings, if they come to campaign events, if they come to party events, if they come to really anything that's involved with the political process, there's a very good chance that I know who they are. Again, not bragging, it's just part of the territory of the job. I have to.
And being involved for a while, you get to know the players.
Exactly. Well, not just the players, but every piece of the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay. So when I can look around and look at different counties that surround our area and really not know a good portion of the folks that are sitting in these seats that are casting votes for the direction of where the party's going, it's concerning to me, because my first thought is, do they really understand what the party's function is, what the party was put together for, what it's supposed to be doing, and how it should be led, and how it should really be driven?
Because the party's more than a one issue.
Well, besides that, it's the role of the party is to advance the Republican core principles and beliefs. It's there to help Republicans get elected, and it's there to bring in new Republicans and really bring them into the party so they have a good understanding of how things work, so they have a good understanding of the political process overall, and they are really able to then turn around and become informed voters when it comes time for us to cast ballots, and which is, again, the whole principle behind this proposed rule change that I've been working on for a good little while now. But that's really what kind of brought this to it. When I look around, especially in the areas that I do have a lot of contact with, and there are folks that are there that I haven't met yet, or I don't know, or I've never seen, I don't know their names. I've got one of those minds that if I see your face, I'm going to remember you until the day I die. But names, maybe not so much, but faces, unforgettable to me. Mm-hmm. So in looking around and not knowing some of these faces, it dawned on me, these people must be new, which is an absolutely incredible thing. At this last convention, almost 2/3 of the entire voting body had never attended a convention before. That's amazing. But again, it begs the question, did they know what was going on? Did they understand who they were voting for? Did they understand the process that they would be voting for? Did they understand the function behind the person that they would be voting for? So there's a lot of knowledge that would go into exactly how you would come to make up your mind on casting a ballot. It's a lot like with a candidate. That candidate must be knowledgeable on policy. They have to have a plan going forward, and they have to have a vision. Not saying that any person that was just elected does not. I'm just saying it was a concern of mine. Did they understand? Did they know this? So that's what really kind of drove me to this. So going back to that, when I started having these thoughts, it was kind of my understanding. It's like, well, if we're going to have these conventions where we're going to make decisions on where the party for the essentially how the direction for this body that goes out, recruits Republicans, supports candidates, and supports the overall principle in general. If we're going to have these conventions to elect these things, maybe we should require that folks understand what it is that they're voting for. And the only way to actually ensure that is to require that they be participating in this, to have them have hands-on experience, and to really make them have the knowledge that they need to make these informed decisions. In addition to that, because of the requirements that are embedded within this, they're not just learning about that. They're going out into their communities and they're meeting the people in their communities. They're learning where their community stands on these on issues involving the Republican Party. So it's not just something that we're trying to exclude people from being able to attend these things. We're also requiring that they go out into their communities and learn about their communities. So again, making a better informed voter on these issues.
Let's dig down into it, right? And so for those of you who are watching, we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit, but this is going to come across as a amendment to Floyd County, but it's an opportunity for other counties, as well as this is something that could be related to the state party.
I would say this proposal is specific to Floyd County. However, I would say that this proposal should be in some way, form, or another embedded within the state party rules that would essentially require every county across the entire state to have these sort of things in their own in their bylaws. So again,
let's dig into it. And while we go through it, then I'll ask you some questions about it, and then we can kind of go from there.
Absolutely. So here's the kind of the opening statement upon this. The opening statement of this. So it says, upon receiving of the state call. So the state call is what the state party sends out that they receive from the national party that starts and kicks off the convention process. So what this does is the state call puts guidelines together of how your precinct caucuses are supposed to be held, then your county conventions, or if you don't have enough people in your county to do the precinct caucuses, that goes right into the county conventions, but then goes to the district, then on up to state. It's the guidelines of how these things are to be done. It's what the county committee then is required by the state party bylaws to publicly disclose and post in the record of the historic record, essentially.
That's correct.
Something that so everyone that puts out that they can go back and search and know.
For those of you who've seen this, and again, related to Floyd County, this is when we send out, this is when you start getting the first notices. You'll start getting, you'll see the advertisement, you'll see the post. We'll be in the paper. We'll send out postcards when it comes to county convention, those kind of things. That's all related to this.
Yeah, that's all the call. So it goes in as it says, the Georgia Republican Party, and talks about what the county committee will be then consenting to do once they receive this call. So as per our bylaws right now, in order for anything like this to go forward, it would require a meeting, unless there is something that is in the rules that say this does not require a meeting to be held. So again,
elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, when you're wanting to change something specifically, as instrumental or as big as this right here, it requires that not only the executive board be there to be able to say yes or no on this. It requires that every Republican elected official come to this meeting, or at least a quorum of Republican elected officials. That's your county commissioners, that's your coroner, that's your DA, that's anyone that runs with an R by their name is a voting member of this delegation.
So I did that kind of for a reason, right?
Yes,
so for those of you who
yes.
don't know, what the structure of the state party is, the state
the
party
county committee.
Well, hear me out. The structure of the state party delegates the responsibilities
Yes,
of the
okay.
party to the county committee, and in most cases, the county committee then elects or has the function outside of convention to elect an executive board
Yes.
to handle the day-to-day function.
Mhm.
This is how you get your county chairs, your county board members, because the county committee is actually made up of those elected Republicans plus the board. So now we've kind of explained that.
It's not a secret backroom meeting.
Yeah.
It's very publicly displayed.
It's within the structure of the
organization. You have to be a member
organization.
of that organization or of that executive organization.
Well, you have to
attend those meetings. You still the makeup of those meetings is very publicly disclosed.
And it's only made up of technically elected, whether you're
Yes.
elected by the party or
Mhm.
elected by the public.
Exactly.
All right.
So it goes into talking about how you wouldn't have to call a meeting with this because, again, per county party bylaws, we would have to call a meeting for this, for something of this magnitude to be done. But it says that when we get the call, with consent or with the express consent by passing this, an amendment will be added to that call that will then be sent back to the state party executive committee, which is again, just like the executive board for the county party, they do the decisions for the day-to-day of which this would fall under. So with this amended call being sent back, or the amended call being sent back, I'm going to really go into exactly what would be required to go into this amendment to the call. And again, this would be explicitly stated in the bylaws of this. So the first part of it, as you see on the screen there, is the county committee of the Floyd County Republican Party, hereinafter FCRP, shall establish the following supplemental rule to the Georgia Republican Party, hereinafter GRP State Rule number 1.1. So that rule lays out, and hang on real quick, and I'll actually have that rule printed out here. Here we go. So the state rule right now says that all electors who are in accord with the principles of the Republican Party believe in its declaration of policy and are in agreement with its aims and purposes may participate as members of the Georgia Republican Party Incorporated in its conventions or precinct caucuses. All chairmen and members of committees, delegates to its conventions, and voters in precinct caucuses provided for in these rules shall be members of the GRP and must be electors of the respective units of which they represent as chairman, members, delegates, or voters in precinct caucuses. So essentially what that's saying there, the only real requirement that you have to have in order to participate under the state party rules is that you are a voter within a specific area that believes in the Republican principles.
Yes, but
so this and Jamie's wrong on what he's trying to get out there, but this isn't here or there with that.
I'm going to keep my chairman hat on.
What this does is it adds a supplemental rule to that, and the supplemental rule is that for any persons seeking to be elected as a representative of the Floyd County Republican Party at any higher convention. So again, it is defined in this subsection here as what these terms are, the representative and what a higher convention is. So a representative would mean any position with voting privileges, i.e. delegate or alternate, elected by the Floyd County Republican Party convention. So that would mean that you can come to the precinct caucuses, you can elect delegates to go to the county convention, but anyone that would then, it would only be the county convention that could then vote on who can go to the 14th congressional district for our area and the state party convention.
So to elaborate again, right? Because I want to go through as a chairman and explain some of these things before we get to asking questions. And I have to continue to add the disclaimer that this is not a rule. This is just something that Justin
this is something that I'm wanting to do.
This is something that Justin is expressed interest in, that he wants to kind of bring to Floyd County first, maybe to test to see, and then, see where we can go from there. That being said, right? Those of you who participate know that once we get to county convention, you put your name on a list, go through this nomination process that is defined inside of the state guidelines. And you can become a delegate to the district and or a delegate to the state conventions. We have a certain number of delegates at both, and then those names are filled up, and then we have a certain number of alternates. And if a delegate is not present, then an alternate may be moved up at such time. And that's defined at whatever your district and your, at the state convention. Anyway.
Yeah, all of that's in the state party bylaws there.
This is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this idea is that if someone wants to be a delegate, not to county or precinct, but a delegate to the district or the state convention, that there is now basically a qualifications that have to be met. Beforehand, there weren't set qualifications, more of just interest, and by state party rules, all it said was you just had to be a voter in that county.
Yes. So again, I full disclosure, my original process in this was that it would be applied to both, or to all three: county, district, and state. However, in listening, I'm gonna leave that one alone. But however, in listening to some folks, just with general concern about this, and because when you're going to the precincts and you're having your county convention, the whole idea behind that is a grassroots effort. So you really want to allow as many people to come in your localized area to voice concern and to have a vote on not only the business, but the leadership and the day-to-day.
Local control.
Exactly.
Local control.
But when it comes to the district and the state, that's when you do need to start having this information that becomes necessary in order to make an informed decision.
So by information, you mean necessary. Give us an example of and I won't say ideal candidate, but someone who kind of meets what these qualifications would look for.
I don't understand what you're asking.
So when you look at the qualifications, right?
We haven't gotten into the qualifications yet.
Okay.
So it's one step at a time. Jamie's trying to fast forward through a lot of this. But again, and it's also defined in there what these higher conventions are. Again, it's not including county or local precinct area caucuses. It's only specifically talking about district conventions and the state party convention. So with that in mind, we move on to the next part of that. And again, we're getting into the qualifications. But it goes in, and so this is the first part that really lays out exactly what it is that you would be required to meet within this new rule that would potentially be established with the amendment to this call. And that is, any person seeking to participate as a representative from the Floyd County Republican Party at a higher convention must meet both requirements as defined within these two sections, or they can meet a single requirement that is defined in the third section. So you have options here, and you can meet these. And I will say, we'll move on real quickly from this, but these are not very high bars to pass. They're really not. So this is the first one. This would be the 500.41A. So it is by written record said persons must have attended a minimum of four of the Floyd County Republican Party regularly scheduled monthly meetings within a 12-month period prior to the date of the convention in which said person chooses to participate. And again, that's really where a lot of this comes in, is the chooses that they have chosen to get into this process, that they're making the decision to do this, that they're making the decision to come out and be influential in this process overall. And because the Republican Party, again, being a private organization, they're able to be kind of selective in exactly who can and who cannot participate within their own functions.
And we don't really exercise that. But
No.
but you know, seeing how things have progressed sometimes, not in a bad way, but it's just making sure that people are actually getting out and helping advocate for candidates, right?
Yes. And again, this whole idea is not to be excluding of anyone coming into this process, especially new people. New people are where we're going to grow and build upon as a party. I'll be frankly honest with you. I was concerned that this party was becoming very stale, that we were, as we've expressed in our shows before, we're dying off. The majority of our party is a much older generation, and they're passing on, and it's leaving it in our hands, and they're leaving it in fewer and fewer hands. So if we're not growing, we're dying. But again, this is not meant to be an excluding rule on this. This is meant to really get and generate more interest and more knowledge in the process overall, and how we can make this party a better party to get out and grow.
It's supposed to be more of a carrot instead of a whip.
Exactly, carrot instead of a stick. But yes, glad you used that one.
Yeah.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and the process of how this record will be maintained would be determined by executive statutes within the Floyd County Republican Party bylaws. So again, that is not pertinent when it comes to a statewide deal, but it is important for the county here in Floyd. So here's the second requirement that you must meet both A and B on in order to do this. And that being, by written record, said persons must have attended a minimum of 3 volunteer work events that have been organized and operated by the Floyd County Republican Party within the 12-month period prior to the date of the convention in which said person chooses to participate. Again, chooses to participate. And this is where I was really talking about that would require that people get out in their communities and learn more from other folks. Because when your Republican Party is going out and volunteering and they're doing a work event or something along that line, they're meeting people in their community and they're talking about concerns, interests, where people lie on different things and all that nature. So you're getting a better understanding of where people are as far as those that are living around you.
Absolutely.
So, and again, it does say executive statutes, records being maintained, but it does go into say what these volunteer work events may include, but are not limited to the events that could go on with this. And these are just examples of things that could qualify for that. So it does end in saying, or any other actions that can reasonably be seen as time volunteered towards advancing the Republican interest on behalf of the county party. So that really leaves it up to the county party in determining what other activities and events they could determine would fall under this requirement.
Yeah.
Again, but it does go back to say it does have to be operated and organized by the county party.
Yeah. I mean, well, we do different functions that we, I'm big on community outreach. We have been sponsoring a good bit of events.
Jamie's shy.
Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows that that's the furthest thing from the truth. Getting out different events is just making sure, a lot of people do raffles and other surrounding counties. We do trunk or treat. We do, Mother's Day events. We do all different types of stuff. And so those would essentially be deemed as an event under this, correct?
Oh, yes. You do phone banking on behalf of candidates. You organize and put together phone banking drives for candidates. The candidate sends representatives, or the candidate comes, and you do those as well. You also go out and you organize door knocking activities. So you're really getting out in the community. You're talking to people that are living around you and talking to them about the Republican Party, the candidates the Republican Party is pushing, as well as the principles of the Republican Party in general. And so you're an ambassador for the Republican Party by doing this.
Yeah. And so the time frame would be set on like a political year, right? So it'd be.
Yes. So as it says, it must be 12 months prior to the convention that you choose to attend or participate in. So we'll say the what is it? The district convention's in March. So starting in March, you have 12 months until the next March to fulfill these very minimum requirements.
Okay.
So it's not like you're being asked for an extraordinary amount of time. You're literally putting in roughly what?
One meeting a quarter.
Roughly 7 hours a year.
Yeah, one meeting a quarter.
If each event is about an hour, we're asking for you to attend 7 events and functions. That's 7 hours in a year. It's if advancing the Republican Party beliefs and principles are as instilled in you enough for you to go out and decide the direction and how the party's going to be ran, 7 hours out of a single year is not that much to ask. The investment that is being asked for is very minimal.
So I got to ask, as a county chair, right? How am I supposed to keep up with that? Are they supposed to keep record of it? When the nominating committee gets together and they see who's on the list, whose responsibility should it be to produce the that they have their qualifications?
So that's a very good question, and that is in all honesty, that is the linchpin piece of all of this. And again, that's where this process here with the term executive statutes is significantly important, because that allows for the local county party to then come in and determine how best they would be able to maintain an accountability track of these. How they would be able to follow these standards and keep track of these standards. So whatever works best for that county party, they can implement that process and how they would be able to keep track of it.
That makes sense. Well, and that's at different levels too, right?
Yes.
Because I know like the district nominating committee, they ask for political resumes, so you have to submit what you've done in the past, things like that. It's
for
similar.
Offices.
Yeah. But what I'm saying,
yes.
what I'm saying is that this, to be delegates, you basically have to produce a similar document to the nominating committee.
Well, you wouldn't have to. The party would. The party keeps track of all of this.
So you would like for the party to keep track of.
So let's say for just wild example, your party executive committee had a recording secretary position on its executive board. Well, part of that recording secretary's responsibility could be that they maintain and keep track of attendance at events. You put it out and tell the membership of that county that, look, when it comes time to start doing these conventions, we're going to have to go through this. We're going to have to check this. So if you're wanting to participate in this, if this means enough to you to go out and vote and decide on the pathway of the party, sign in. Let us know you're here. All you have to do is write your name down. You don't have to give us all your information. Just sign in and let us know that you're here. And then you have your recording secretary come back and on a spreadsheet, the date of the event, go down the list, put a check by who had attended, and anyone's name that had not already been on the list, add their name to it, and then put a check by the date that was attended. So it's not that much of an inconvenience when it comes to that.
Yeah, but that's one area where I do push back a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Only because I think the burden should be on the person who wants to move forward. You a lot of times, if you're going for like a board position or anything like that, you have to produce your own political resume, and then that's verified, right? So I don't disagree that maybe attendance should be taken or a sign-in sheet should happen, but I think the responsibility, the burden should be on the applicant.
I would, although in a general sense, yes, I agree with that. In a practical sense, I do not, because you cannot they can't reliably come back and produce that they were at an event at a specific time, or they attended enough events on their own, unless the county party in their own capacity maintained track of that attendance. There's no way for you to come back and say, or unless you put down on the sheet of paper, did you attend X number of events? Did you attend X number of functions? I mean, we already have people that come in and say that they believe in the county, in the Republican platform, and sign their name down and then violate that hands down anyway. So what would keep them from saying, yes, I attended all those? Now prove me wrong. there's no practical way of verifying it unless the county party does take that step in maintaining those records.
I see your perspective.
Well, tell me how it could.
I kind of don't agree, though.
Tell me how it could be done then.
Well, because again, the burden should be on the applicant, right?
So how could it reliably be done then?
Someone would need to take a record of their own, because if I like, you need to document it. If you're going to be at a meeting, you know, you can document it in a multitude of ways. You can say, you know, take a photo of it. There. Without going too deep into it, there are also other Republican organizations that for their annual renewals or other things, they have to produce proof that they had so many meetings, they did so many other different functions, they did all of these other things. And it's the burden on then the applicant who is going through that annual report period to produce that information. So similar to that, or similar to anyone who's like a nominee for a board position, you have to produce your resume. The burden of verifying should be on the party. Now, I will agree with you. How do you verify? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's something that could be done through tracking the sign-in sheet. I just, you know, tracking membership is just questionable in my mind, in the sense of, you know, you track membership for who's a member, you know, who is current, who is not, who is quote unquote active, who is not, however your county party describes that it's supposed to be. But life happens. And so how would, is it a designated person every time? What happens if that person's not there? What happens if that person can't be there who's supposed to be keeping the record? You know what I mean?
Well, again, you can, because the executive board, in my version of this, the executive board is made up of 12 to 13 different people.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, but in most cases, that there are multiple people that could do this. So if one person's not able to attend, you have a wide slate of other folks that can then come down. And if you're telling your membership, say at the start of every meeting, say, make sure you go and sign in on the list, write your name down so we can keep track of attendance for this verification process at the for our conventions. So you're telling your membership over and over and instilling in their mind that they must sign in order to be able to meet these requirements when it comes to making sure that you're doing this. So it puts a little bit more of a burden on the executive committee. But again, the executive committee members are people that agreed to put forward their time to oversee the day-to-day functions of the county party and really pushing the county party forward. You volunteer more of your time already. You agreed to doing these sorts of things. You agreed to going above and beyond what is required of the average member in order to have a more significant and substantial input on how the parties ran and how it's done.
Let's agree to disagree and move on.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, again, Justin wins. Moving on to the to the next part of this, and this is the third, or you would be required to fulfill both A and B, or C in of itself. This right here is specific, and I wrote this specifically because we have a lot of women in our group that form the Floyd County Republican Party Women's Organization that put in more time and effort manning the headquarters, doing events, things along that nature than anybody related to the actual county party does. I mean, they live in those headquarters. Miss Cookie is the biggest volunteer I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'll agree with that. Her and Mary. Yes.
So this right here, this rule was written specifically in mind for them because I know they have other functions that go on during some of the meeting processes. This right here would still allow for anyone to come out and instead of attending the meetings, which let's be honest, sometimes can be a little boring, and just do the community outreach.
Thanks.
And the
I work hard on those meetings.
I know you do. It's the reason why I said it. But this provision gets rid of going to the meetings, but it allows you specifically to focus on the community outreach portion of it. And it just has a higher threshold in community involvement. So instead of doing the 4 meetings and then 3 work events, you do 3 Floyd County Republican Party organized and ran meetings or ran work events, and 3 with an allied organization that has been recognized by the county committee. There are certain organizations that, per the bylaws, have been recognized by the county committee as being affiliates of the Floyd County Republican Party.
So it has to be a recognized,
yes,
in writing.
Yes,
it just can't be any other.
Can't just be Joe Blow organization over there that says that you did this.
Yeah, like
it has to be the county party.
Someone couldn't come in and start, a Floyd County coalition.
Yes, it has to be recognized by the county committee, and the county committee being the Republican elected officials and the Republican Party executive board. So you're really getting into kind of the
that's in the rules anyway.
Exactly. So it has to be one of these recognized organizations in order for this to be able to count. And again, statutes, the executive statutes would maintain on how these were kept, and the allied organization could come in and say, "Look, these people were here for this time. They were recognized by the county committee. They are recognized as being actual Republican entities. So, giving it the benefit of the doubt." And giving them that grace and saying, if you say it, it is. So that's where this right here would really be a significant ability for those who are not coming, who really have other things that are going on. And it gives another method of really getting out into the community and allows for more community engagement, while at the same time allowing for more flexibility for this to be met. Because the regularly scheduled monthly meetings are on a specific day at a specific time of every month. Well, this right here, events could be going on within a wide range of organizations just about any day of the week. So it really allows for a lot more flexibility with this. So this part right here would be not the perfect answer, but it is a answer to the statement "life happens."
Okay. I think I understand.
So we've covered what would have to be done. So let's look at who this specific rule change it wouldn't fall on. So this right here was kind of, it's really the rule is very compliant with the ADA. Mm-hmm. So it's American Disabilities Act. Mm-hmm. So if you are over the age of what is recognizably the current federal recognized retirement age, mm-hmm. you wouldn't have to comply with this, because if the work events really being the bigger part of it, because if you're older and you're not able to get around as well, if you're not able to participate as much, you can't require someone to go out and do that. And quite frankly, a lot of these people that are of that age have already been involved with the party for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years.
They've already passed the torch a couple times.
Yeah, they're on like their great grandkids for passing the torch.
It's out, it's out of respect of being part. Yeah.
Yes. It also says that anybody who, any persons who may be considered disabled as defined by relevant Georgia statutes. So again, by Georgia law, if you are disabled, you would not have to do this, because we can't require someone to go out and do something that they're not physically able to do in order to participate. Technically, we could, but that's not what we're about overall. So this really keeps able-bodied people involved and encourages and really motivates them. If they want to participate in this process overall, you need to get out and do something. You have to have the skin in the game. If you don't have the skin in the game, why should anybody within the private organization be interested in what you have to say at all? And to be frank about it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So the last one being any officials any duly elected officials through Georgia, or any officials duly elected through Georgia statutes, shall only be required to fulfill the 504 or the 500.41A, that's the attendance to the meeting requirement. So if they are elected in that office, you want them to be seen by the party. They need to be engaged with the party. They need to come to these meetings so they can engage with folks that, again, the party has elected them to represent. If they should want to do this. This should be something that they want to do, that they strive to do, that they are encouraged to do.
Hey, I get that. There used to be a rule similar, and
it didn't require. It encouraged. And I just kind of always, and I will say this, in Floyd County, especially, and I know the other surrounding counties, the elected officials do a great job of getting out, involved with the community for all of the, especially in the 14th, 11th, and 9th that I know of, get involved with their communities, get involved with the outreach program. So this is not like anything towards that. Not at all.
What I'm saying though is that they advocate on other ways for the party. And I think that some of those things that they have to and required to do to represent the party should be counted towards that.
Well, they are. They're not required per this to attend the community outreach because they do.
Well, I'm just saying sometimes
and they have to get out and speak with that. But this is essentially a requirement for them to come in and engage with the party that is there that the members are working on behalf of to get them into office. You would think that this would be an acceptable thing that anybody that is a Republican elected official would want to do because they were thankful for the work that the county members have done on their behalf.
I 100% agree.
And again, this is not directed towards ours.
I think that a lot of elected officials do this already.
Yes, very much so.
Requiring it of them, though, in order to be
well, if you're requiring it of the members, it would only be fair if you're requiring it of those that the members are there to work on behalf of. If you're requiring it of the people that want to go in to do this, if a elected official wants to become a delegate or an alternate to then go forward and do that as well, they should at least meet some level of requirement that the regular members do.
What I'm saying is that being an elected official automatically has them going above and beyond for the party that a regular member already has.
And well, not entirely.
And so we'll just agree to disagree.
Well, again, this doesn't say just representatives of the party. This says any elected official.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So a lot of elected officials don't represent the party in their capacity
as members to the party, but they may be elected to a nonpartisan position.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. So moving forward to that. So we've gone through who this would not cover. So let's look at what would happen when this amendment is sent out. This is also established and would be sent out with the amended call as well. So the state executive committee could see what response, how things would be handled once a response or decision came back from the state party. And that being in accordance with the timeline established by the Georgia Republican Party, the county chairman shall transmit the amended version of the state call to the state executive committee for approval. And upon getting the decision back from the state committee, and I won't go through all of that, they have to then turn around and tell the executive or the county committee of the state committee's decision within 5 days of receiving a response. And it goes further into saying, consistent with the Georgia Party state rules, if no action is taken on this amended call, it is to be considered approved if there's no action taken by January 5th. So if you haven't received a response by January 5th, that's actually taken almost copy and paste straight from the state party rules. So if you send an amended call back to the state party, if they have not given you a response back by January 5th, that amended call is to be considered approved.
Kind of like the opposite of a veto.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And unless the president comes out and yeah, exactly. So if they don't give you a response by the specific date, then that amendment would be considered approved. So they must be on record of saying approved under certain circumstances, or denied. So there would be a record of where they would stand on an amendment like this.
Okay.
All right, moving forward with that. This right here talks about what would happen once you receive a decision that says, yes, you're approved, or you're approved, but you have to abide by these circumstances. It says that, in the firm decision of the amended version of the state call, the county committee shall follow the publication requirements of the amended version of the state call in accordance with the state party rules and the decision. But there is a provision that was enacted within that I have included in this. And this is something that was, in all honesty, was probably about 20 minutes before you walked in the door. If the state party does put out an affirmed amendment, but the county convention, the voting delegates of that county convention decide, we don't like that, we want to just move forward with under the original call. So by a 2/3 vote, they can overrule it. It's the exact same thing as what Robert's rule says. It's just putting it in here and informing people that can be done. It can be done regardless without it being entered or not.
I'm here to listen.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's entered or not. It can still be done.
I'm here to listen.
Jamie doesn't want to agree with it, but still, it can, if the county convention or if the voting delegates of the county convention feel that that's not what they want to do, they can remove it even if the state party has approved it. So again, if they have denied it, then you would go back to the original unamended part of the call, and they would follow the publication guidelines pursuant to the state party rules. This right here is the last one in this is really a very important part of it, because we've already gotten out of the convention cycle. We cannot institute these rule requirements in the upcoming convention cycle, because not enough time would elapse to allow people to meet these requirements if approved by the state convention or the state executive committee. So this would essentially only go out after the call for the 2025 convention cycle begins, which would essentially be January or November, November of 2024. So the off or the odd number year convention cycle, where we will go in and vote for leadership for the entire state party. That's when this would be enacted and really carry weight or be,
which would
able
make
to
sense, because you don't have convention in a gubernatorial year.
Yes. Well, you do have in presidential election primary years, because that's when you elect your
what I'm talking about is that
committee.
Yeah, but the election of officers, usually when you do the rule changes, everything else. Okay.
Yes. So
because you're only there,
you have
you're only
3 years in a row, a year off, then 1 year off, then 3 years in a row.
Yep.
So yeah, it's crazy cycle. Again, it's one of those things that you only pick up and know when you're really getting into it and really learn more about it and get involved with this level. The entire prospect of all of this, the entire reason behind all of it, is to really drive home the fact that a lot of incredibly important decisions are made at the state party or at these conventions. It is the direction of the entire party via the congressional district, via the state, via the national. It's all directed at these conventions, or it's all decided on at these conventions. So you want to have those who have the best understanding, the best knowledge of their communities and the surroundings of their communities before they'll get in and put out a vote that may or may not be informed. You want them to have these informed decisions. And as a private organization, we can require that that the members, in order to be able to have that vote, have an informed and, really, in all honesty, an invested decision to make. I'll make a quick example of this. So our founding fathers, they invested their lives, their personal wealth, and in some cases, their families. They put their time, their wealth, and again, sometimes their own personal lives by laying it on the altar for the ultimate sacrifice for this. They understood that this nation had a future, and that future was going to, well, it needed to be determined by those who felt a calling or felt the need to have that personal investment, to make those sacrifices in order to be able to make the determination of where that nation would head. If you're not willing to sacrifice something for the betterment of the organization that you claim to love and to be a part of so much, is it really that important to you? Should you really be making a vote or a decision on something that would affect everyone else around you if you're not that passionate enough about it? It's all about getting folks engaged, involved, and really stirring a fire. So again, this proposal will put more of a load on the local county committees or the local county executive boards, but at the same time, it's a motivational factor as well. We all know if you show up to any convention and you have a bunch of empty seats in your delegation, it's a little embarrassing. So this is also a motivational factor to have the executive boards come out and offer more of these events to get people more engaged. It's a motivational factor for them to then turn around and get their members out in the communities and have them more engaged with these issues and have them more engaged with really getting the message for the Republican Party out and about in their communities and in their areas, and having them come into these meetings to meet candidates, to meet those that are influential in these areas and to learn from them. If they're not doing this, why should they come in and have a vote or a decision on what would affect and influence every other party in their area and across the entire state?
Well, I'm intrigued by it. I don't know why I was always told this metaphor, you don't motivate sloths the same way you motivate bees, but,
well, this is for years, like you said earlier, for years, we've given carrots. This is the stick for the convention cycle.
Well, and I get that. The goal is to try to make sure that we motivate people to come out and participate and
to be informed
and encourage executive boards, executive committees, district boards, everyone else to
not just sit on titles, to actually work,
to work and get out in the community, be involved, be present, be
not
seen.
That y'all do it.
Oh no,
not that y'all do it. Not that y'all do that. No, this again, this principle, although specifically in this directed towards the county party or Floyd County party, this was written as a notion to be done statewide.
Yeah, well, anyone who ever says, I'll put it this way, when you first get involved in politics, you aspire to be a chair, but this is the most interesting, and I use that term very loosely because I shouldn't say other words, volunteer position that you will ever have in your life. But I think the purpose is in the right spot. I think the objective is in the right spot. I'd really like to take a dabble deeper into it and think about, dissect it a little bit more, look at different aspects of it. And, I think that's kind of what we want to charge our viewers with as well, is to, in the, at the bottom of this, in the comment section, there's going to be a link. Go to the link and try to give us your feedback. I battle back and forth with this because you don't want to be too restrictive, but you don't want to be under motivating either. And so I
think this is a good settlement and a good reach between the two worlds.
Absolutely.
The requirements that would be the supplemental rule to the original rule they're so minimal that, again, it would require at 7 hours in an entire year for you to come out and work and learn on behalf of the Republican Party.
And I think that's the big thing, legalese kind of freak people out sometimes. But when you have to do it all the time for stuff like that we do professionally, you go through it pretty fast and you kind of understand it at a different level than just a regular member. So, I think the big thing is that this is not much of a big ask from what you're telling me this would be. I think there's some, additional vetting that could happen, and that's why we wanted to come to you. help me try to strengthen the party and help Justin try to help strengthen the state party. Leave us a comment, send us a message, let us know what you think about this, and see what we can do to go from there.
Yeah. Again, as the author, I firmly believe that this would be something that would be able to strengthen and really bring in not only an informative group of voters, but a motivated and a connected group of voters, those who are connected to their communities, and they have a vested interest, that they've gone out, they've put in the work, they've gone to the meetings, they've learned, they've participated, they've done everything. And that's what you want when you're coming in with someone's determining leadership. You want the best. So you need the best in order to have that outcome.
I like it. Well,
as always with everything, we do like to remind our viewers that you must hit like and share because of Jamie Law. We have determined that he is the chair, so you must follow Jamie Law. We also require that you. Well, Jamie also requires that you hit subscribe as well. It was in the party bylaws that were just passed.
No.
No. It does require that you hit subscribe.
Redact that. No, it does
It
not.
also says that you have to go to our website at conservativetalk.org and become a sponsor, because if not, you're not doing your fair share in your part. We also want to say a quick thank you to our
dancing on my lines.
I'm very good at that.
I'm very good at staying in my lane when I have to.
I step on lines all over the place. But we want to say a quick thank you to our affiliates, and our first one being Net News Network. So make sure you are looking for Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. We also want to say a quick thank you to Veterans for America First and their media arm, Vet Voice. So make sure you are looking for Vet Voice on every major social media platform. So, Jamie, with that, how about giving us your final thoughts?
So first off, I want to say thank you, Justin, for kind of all the work that you do, not just for trying to continue to motivate people, getting people involved, but what you do on behalf of the party, on behalf of Floyd County as a whole, and on behalf of the district. I think
I take checks.
I think it's very important that you're one of the biggest unsung heroes in Northwest Georgia. And so I just had to say that as my friend. Right.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank
you. With that being said, I think it's important that we continue to figure out ways to motivate and grow the party. Mm-hmm. So for my final thought today, I would just say, please do go to the comments, look inside the Google Drive that will be shared. Tell us what you think about it. Send us some updates. Send us some things that you may think that would need to be changed that may fall better in line with your rules, or may fall better in line with state party rules, or however you feel. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to have the mass conversation, because without it, we're just boards in weird rooms talking amongst each other. And then once it comes down, we all have to communicate across the state about what's going on. So I think the visual and open communication on multiple platforms is very important when we start talking about something as important as saving our country. So,
yeah, especially something as consequential as changing the party bylaws, not only locally but potentially statewide.
Well, my whole thing is this, right? I am not, and if you know me, you know this very well. Like, I am not for restricting who can be on a ballot and who can run for office. Mm-hmm. I completely disagree with the accountability rule that was proposed at state convention. But I do feel that members need to have a skin in the game, because I think that the burden of being an elected official, running for office, and then holding office, governing, is very daunting. And I think that members, people who need to do more than just be on keyboards or behind cameras and just scream and yell all the time, should have more skin in the game in order for them to have a say-so in things that go on. So for me, the important thing is that we all meet each other on a certain level. The members come out and put skin in the game, and elected officials put their lives out there for everyone to see. So,
I actually have a slightly modified approach when it comes to that, and that being, this is the only way I would get behind and support an accountability rule.
1,000%.
Because
it needs to be on the members, not the elected.
You are going to then come behind. Well, if you're going to then come behind and hold our elected officials accountable through a convention process, the only people that should ever be allowed to vote in that convention process are those who are A, well-informed, and B, who have worked on behalf of not maybe potentially those candidates or maybe another candidate, but they have worked for the party in advancing the party interest. If they do not do that, they should under no circumstances be allowed to vote on whether a candidate can be on that ballot, because they do not know anything about the party or the platform of it, and they have not worked on behalf of the Republican Party in advancing the interest of it.
I don't think it's the place of a private organization at any point to tell the public who they can and cannot vote for, period. I think everyone and anyone, regardless of whether you agree with me or not, should be allowed to be on the ballot, given the rules inside of the Constitution, as long as all the statutes are followed, that someone can be on the ballot and the people decide. Period. It should not be a party. It should not be a business. It should not be any other form of a private organization. So the only thing that I believe should be held accountable is the people who have decided to be a part of that private organization.
Period. And I agree with you wholeheartedly with that. It's just, if that accountability rule is implemented, this is the only, if it is going to be implemented, and it's,
if something like that's implemented,
there's nothing else that was well, and there's nothing else that's going to happen with it. This is the only way that I can see it moving forward without having to hit that nuke button.
Let's get off the air. I'm getting frustrated.
Oh, well, you get frustrated when the wind blows. So with that, this is Conservatives Talk, and we do want to say you heard it here first. We'll see you.